Okay, here we are. We are at version 6 of version 0.6 of our Noughts and Crosses app. If you've been following along live, then it's been a few days, so we'll just refresh our memories. If you've been if you've been following this in the future, then maybe take a break if you've just come from the last one. Refresh, kind of clear your head, and then come back to this feeling refreshed. Version 0.5, as per my release notes, we added our top bar menu and we added the ability to rematch in a session. So if I run our code now, we can see that we've got this menu here with game menu and the about menu, and we also have the ability here to press rematch. Now, there's a problem here right off the bat, because I don't know if I addressed it in the last version. Probably would have been good if I rewatched that or made some notes to myself, but hey ho. But let's say Alice is looking threatening, right? Alice, and I apologise that you can't see the whole grid, but with this, this has gotten away from me, the size of this window. But Alice is about to win, right? She's about to get 3 in a row, and Bob's goofed up. He's gone there, okay? And so Alice is about to. She can go and she can win, but Bob can go up to the game menu and just press rematch, and it's gone, and Alice can't do anything about that. That game is wiped now. So we're able to set a rematch any time in the game, and that's really bad because we don't want the ability for Bob or Alice to be able to choose a rematch when they're still in a match, right? We should only be able to rematch once the match is concluded. And so we're going to address that first today. If we just check our to-do list, we're also going to add a player name input screen, and we're going to add a main menu screen. That's going to be our objective for today, and maybe it will bleed over to tomorrow. Let's see how we go. Now, firstly, we need to get a handle on how we are doing this rematch thing. So let's have a little look. If we go to our main.py and scroll down here, all the way down, I think, where did we make it? We made create drop-down menus. Fantastic. And inside here, making the game drop-down menu, comments. They're important. Put them in your code. They're very important. This is helpful. Making the game drop-down menu. And I called this game menu. It all just makes sense. Thank you, past me, for making this easy. So we can see here that I have game menu to add command, rematch, command equals self.newGame. So when we call self.newGame, it just resets the game for us. Okay, so let's go down to new game. Okay, and we can see here, we reset the board, we get the first turn, we set the player turns, we set game over to false. Now, we only want to do this if the game is already over, right? If someone's won, if they've drawn, if someone's lost, obviously because someone will have won, then we want to do this. Otherwise, we just want to ignore this. We don't want anything to happen. So we're going to wrap all of this in a big old if statement. So we're going to say if self dot, and I believe the property, we got it written right here. Where am I going? Self.gameOver, right? If self.gameOver, game over is true, equals true, then we're going to do all of this, and I'm going to select it all and hit tab and just shunt it all into this if statement. Okay, so now what we're saying is if it is game over, then you can reset the board, you can play a new game. If it's not over, then no, you can't have a rematch. Okay, and that's really important that we kind of control that. And you will notice that very cleverly, past me, decided that when we first create the Noughts and Crosses class in the initialize function, we set the game over to true, right? So when we very first create it, we set game over, the game is over, it's not currently started, and then we can call new game, and that will create us a brand new game, okay? And all the code there will kick it off and start it nicely and set the game over to false, wipe the boards, set the player turns, and all of that good stuff. So now we should be able to run this, and Bob should not be able to thwart Alice. So here we go, same play, okay, as before. Alice has gone 2 down. Bob's followed her foolishly, and now she can go here. But Bob wants to rage quit. He hits rematch, and nothing happens because we're controlling when you can call game over. And I can just press rematch all the time. Oh no, I did the thing, and it won't work. Okay, don't press those dashes. I forgot about that. So that's... I will work out how to get rid of that, but not today. Now, it might be also a good idea if we could think about whether like to grey out that menu depending on whether or not it's whether or not they're in a game. So if they're in a game, we might grey out that button and disable it. But we're not going to worry about that today. We've prevented anything from happening when it's clicked, but we could go one step further and actually we could make it unclickable. But yeah, we'll worry about that another time. Now, what I'd really like to do is focus on when we start the game, instead of going straight into a game, we go to a main menu screen. And so we're going to program that in right now. We've already made a method in the Noughts and Crosses class called create game window. There we go. So we also, I'm just going to minimize all of these. So many methods. Okay, create game window. We're also going to have create, what's it called? The main menu window. Def create main menu window. Okay, fantastic. And we must remember to pass in the all-important self when we are making a method as part of a class. Now, in order to create the main menu window, we need to create a frame. Now, the frame is, we're probably going to attach this to this class. So we can see here we've got the, are we storing, we got the, are we storing it? No, I guess we're not. Do we need to store it? Probably not. Okay, we'll worry about whether we need to store it later. So we'll make a frame. So we'll say frame is equal to tk.frame. And we will pass in self.window, because that's the root, that's the kind of parent, the big window that we're going to put this frame inside. We're going to have 3 buttons, I think. And then we will put the frame inside the window. So we'll say frame dot grid. Dot grid. It's been a while since I've done this. It's been at least 2 days. We're going to say row equals 0. We're going to say column equals 0. And we're going to say that the sticky is news. North, east, west, south. Because that's how we say directions. Okay, and then we're just going to put in the kind of main window stuff in here. Now, the main menu window. One thing that we also need to think about is how we swap between these different frames, okay? So we've got our game window here. Create game window. Game board equals game board. Okay, game board is the game window. That's not confusing at all. Is it the game window? Yeah. Let's have a look at the game board class. I've confused myself with how I programmed this. This isn't a good start, is it? This is not a good start. We self.button.grid. Oh, here's the game board. Create board. So game board dot. Oh no, but then we have the stats area as well, don't we? Create game window. Is that? No. So I've got my stats area and my game board, and I pack them both into the window, but I don't want to do that, do I? I want to put them in their own frame because I want to be able to essentially take that frame away and put the main menu frame in the place. So let's make a quick frame. So what do we want? Let's call this game window, okay? So we've programmed this just not very thoughtfully when it comes to how this application is going to scale. So let's call this game window, okay? I'm going to just set this equal to an empty string. Some languages will let you just do this. I don't know if Python will, like self.gamewindow. It exists, but it's not got a value yet. I don't know. I just, as few errors as possible right now, please. An easy life. Okay, so we're going to say self.gamewindow is equal to a tk.frame. So we're going to make a new frame. Yeah, and then we're going to add to that frame our stats area and our game board. So after we've done that, we're going to add the game window to the window. Should I call this game window or game screen? I think we should call it game screen. I've called it window. Let's stick with window. Let's not make it more confusing than it needs to be. My mind's jumping around a bit today. So we're going to pack that into the main. So we're going to say self.game window dot grid, and I'm going like backwards through this, but that's just how my mind is working. Row equals 0, column equals 0, and sticky equals news. North, east, west, south. Okay, now the really good thing about this is here we pass in the self.window, right, to the stats area, and we also pass it in to the game board. And if we have a look at the stats area, come down here, it asks for the window, and then it creates the stats area with that window. Really, what we should have called this is parent, because this is like the parent frame that this stats area belongs to, and we can just change this rather than being self.window from the noughts and crosses class. We can change this to being this game window, right? So rather than self.window, we can use self.game window. Massive difference in naming convention, I know. And so it's just literally just a small change that we can make here. So I'm going to say game window, and in game board, I'm just going to check in game board that we're not using it anywhere else. So we pass in. Come back. Hello. In here, we have the window, create board using the window. We make the frame using the window. And is that all we use the window for? It looks like it. I think you can press Control F to find all instances of something, but there's nothing like scrolling through all of your code. Okay, so this doesn't look like it will break anything. So we can just come into here and we can say self.game window rather than passing in the window. And then we're going to attach the game window, which contains the stats area and the game board. We're going to attach that to the main the main window, and we're also going to attach the main menu window. No, I hate it. I'm saying it too much. I'm going to call it game screen. And I'm going to call it main menu screen. I can't handle it. I'm sorry. Just a quick Control C and Control V on this. Create game screen. I'm going to rename this. Create game screen. And then let's scroll up here. So instead of on line 21, I'm going to change this to create game screen. And I'm going to change this game window to game screen. Okay, I'm sorry. There's too many instances of window. So our window is the main thing that everything else goes inside. And then we've got different screens which we show to the user. Okay. If I just call everything a window, it just gets very confusing. That is definitely going to break something down here. Start new session. No, that's fine. First turn's fine. Set player turns fine. New game, I think, maybe. Gameboard.reset. No, okay, that's all fine. Okay, looks like that was fairly non-destructive. Okay, I'm quite happy with that. Add margins. What does that do? That adds in margins. Cool. When do we add margins? When we make the game screen. Create game screen, add margins. Okay, so this is something we'll need to change as well. So you can see here our add margins, we're giving it self.window. What would be cleverer, actually, is if we were to use the same margins for any frame, right? So we're going to pass in a frame, and then we're going to attach these margins to this frame. And then down here, when we say add margins, we're going to add self.game screen. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to come down here, and after game screen, we're going to add our margins, and we're going to pass in self.game screen. Okay, I've changed the variable name, and so I'm very anxious that I've broken something, but we'll get to that. It'll be fine. Okay, so instead of create main menu window, we're going to call this create main menu screen. Okay, now we have two screens, right? We have the game screen and we have the main menu screen. We need to put some stuff in the main menu screen now. So all I'm going to do is put some buttons in, okay? 3 buttons that we can click. It doesn't need to be anything fancy. Obviously, you can make it as jazzy as you'd like it to be, but I'm kind of going to focus on functionality here. So we have some buttons in the game board, so I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. I'm going to come down here and look at what the syntax is for making a button into Kinter. There is some things that you can add. Okay, where is it? Somewhere here, space. Oh, when we make a space, we create a button, right? So self.button, okay. I've written it out like this, which is weird. Let's just take this whole thing. So I'm just going to copy this from space and just edit the particulars. So let's come into our main menu screen. and I'm going to not do self.button, but I'm just going to call this button. And it looks like this might be prime time for a loop. So we're going to say button equals tk.button. Let's think about the different buttons that we want. So I'm just going to make a little variable up here, an array, and call this buttons. And let's say new game. Oh, new game. Let's say continue. Should really make these strings. That's it. And I'm going to say, what am I going to say? I'm going to say exit. Okay. Could add like an about button or like a settings button. But right now, let's just keep it at 3. But if you want to add more, feel free. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make the frame, and then we're going to say for, let's say label in buttons. So for look, these are kind of like the button labels, right? What's going to be written on each button. We're going to say button equals tk.button. So the parent is going to be the frame. So the frame that we've made here, we're going to put that button inside that frame. The width is going to be self.size. I guess we should just make them 30 wide. We can always change that another time. Height equals, we don't want to make them square. Let's say like 10. I can't remember how height works. I know it's wrong. We'll see. Does this need a text variable? No, it doesn't. Okay. So we're just going to say text equals. So I'm going to get rid of variable, text equals, and we're going to say label. So label is going to start as new game, then it's going to be continue, then it's going to be exit. Right? And then what we're going to do is we're just going to shunt this into here, this self.button.grid, get rid of self. Because we're not attaching this to the class, it's just a variable. And we're going to say button.grid, and we need now to be counting. So they're going to be on the same row. So let's put it in row, no, not, they're going to be in the same column. So let's put it in column 1. But the row, we need to count up each time that we go round. Maybe instead of for labeling buttons, maybe what we'll do is we'll... damned if you do, damned if you don't. I was going to use a counting for loop, but let's just do this. Row equals 0, and then at the bottom here, we'll say row plus equals 1. Okay, and we'll say row equals row. And so that will start at 0, and then each subsequent button will go in the next row down. So we should get a nice row of buttons. Actually, heck, let's do +2. No, let's... I was thinking about spacing them out a little bit. Let's do maybe +2. And then maybe add in like just an empty line between them. So we could say tk.label. We could give it the frame. We could say the text is equal to just an empty string. And then we could say .grid, and we could give it the same row. So row equals row. Add 1. And we're going to say column equals column. Okay, and then we're going to add 2 to the row. So then we'll get some little gaps between the buttons. This is all happening in my head, and I apologise because you can't actually see anything yet. But there will be a gap now because we're adding in this label each time. Notice we're not even saving the label. We're just kind of attaching it to the frame and getting rid of. Column does not equal column. Column equals 1. Whoops. Okay. So our command here for each button, that is a good point. It's a good point. Maybe we can't loop this. Didn't think that one through, did I? Yeah. Maybe this isn't the way to go. Maybe a loop's making it too complicated. Let's take the loop out. I'm trying to avoid copying and pasting this chunk of button text 3 times. But yeah, it's gonna just be simpler, I think. So I'm just gonna cut this. Can you hear like the resignation in my voice? Like, oh, I was trying to be clever. All right, so we'll say row equals 0. tk.label. At least we have a bit more control over this now. Okay, so I'm gonna get rid of the loop. I'm gonna get rid of this buttons thing, and I'm just gonna copy and paste this whole section a few times. It doesn't feel right, does it? Doesn't feel right. Maybe we could do make menu button. Actually, no. I've thought it through. I've thought it through. Okay, I'm going back in time here. I'm reversing. Okay, so column equals 1. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to also make an array of commands. We're going to say button commands. I'm sorry for flip-flopping here. This is development 101, right? We're testing things out. We're thinking about things. Things aren't always going to be perfect, but they're going to maybe work. They're going to hopefully work. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to put in the different commands that we want. So I'm going to say new game. We are going to... Do we have something to create a new game? I guess we want like a new start new session. Yeah, we do. Fantastic. So we're going to have self.start new session here. Self.start new session. Okay. Now we're just going to pass a reference to this function. Okay. And then we can use this. We can pass the reference down here. We can say just use self.start new session, and then when it's actually clicked, it will then run that function, right? Because it knows where it is, and it knows that it's got the reference to that function, but I'm only going to run it when I'm clicked. So instead of saying for label in buttons, we're going to say for I in range, the length of buttons. Come back. Hello. It's okay. It's okay, we're not lost. For I in range, length of buttons, so we're going to start at 0 and go up to 3, and then we're going to go through these 3 different things, but we're also, I is going to match this, right? So when we press new game, we're going to say self start new session. We're also going to have a function for return to session. So I'm going to say def return to session. And at the moment, we will just return true on this. I've not really given much thought as to how this will work, but we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out at some point. So we'll return true there, and then when we've actually thought about it, it will actually happen. So now what we're going to do is our text is going to be equal to buttons I, and our command is going to be equal to button commands I. Button commands at position I. Okay. So our next command will be continue, which will be return to session. So we're going to say self.return to session. And lastly, our exit, we're just going to say self.window.destroy. And absolutely, the story. I always spell it like that, destroy. Can't talk and type. So we're going to just destroy the window if we if we press that button. Okay, so this should create our buttons, and it's doing it in a nice loop way where we don't have lots and lots of repeating code. Our width is the same, frame. I'm just going to shunt this into the button a little bit just for stylistic sake, so we can see that these are kind of properties of this button. So we're passing it the parent, the width, the height, the text, the command. We're then popping it in the grid at position row now, so we're at position I. So we're going to say row equals I. And down here for our label, we're going to say I plus 1. Then we can get rid of this row. We can get rid of this row here. Okay, so it's nice and compact in our for loop now. And we're starting to cook with gas here. So this has made our frame, right? We're adding these 3 buttons and these 3 labels to our main menu screen. So now we need a way to swap between screens, okay? So our return to session screen is essentially just going to show our game window, our game screen, sorry. So I think it's self.gamescreen, yeah, self.gamescreen. So we're going to say, for return to session, I think we can say tk.raise. Was it tk.raise? No. What was it? I'm gonna have to check the last project. I've completely forgotten here. What did we do in Password Manager? It was tk dot something. Sorry, forgive me while I just scroll through my previous stuff. Oh god, I can't remember how this worked. Change frame. Here we go. Frames.tkRaise. Okay, I was very, very close. So we're going to go to noughts and crosses, and we're going to come back to, it's all gone wrong. It's all unorganized. I should have opened this in a new tab. That's okay. Let's just pop these files open. It would be nice if there was one button that opened all of the tabs in here. That'd be fantastic. But hey ho, beggars can't be choosers. So there we go. Back to where we started. So when we are returning to session, we are going to say self dot game screen dot tk raise, right? Dot tk raise, and that is going to take us back into the game. Now, we only want to do this. When do we only want to do this? If there is a session in progress, I guess. We can think about that in a little bit. So we've got these buttons. Let's actually get the main menu. So we've got return to session. What did I call this method up here? Start new session. Start new session. So down here, we need to do exactly the same thing. So we need to copy this, and once we've created the new game, we're going to say gamescreen.tkraise. So we're going to show that session, show that screen. Lastly, we need to actually display the main menu, right? So we're going to make a function called def display main menu, pass in the self, and we are going to say self dot, what did I call this? Oh, I've not stored this yet. I've just said frame equals. Okay, so in create menu main menu screen, we actually need to be storing that frame as a variable attached to the class, as a property of this class. So you can see here we've got self.gamescreen. Underneath that, I'm going to say self, or above it, or wherever, I'm going to call this self.menu screen. And set it to an empty string. I can't help myself. Okay, down here, we're going to come down to display main menu, and we're going to say self.menu screen.tkraise. Now, when we first start this application, so you can see here in start, we need to actually show that first main menu screen. So we're going to say, because the actual code for our app is this: app equals a brand new version of the Noughts and Crosses class. So create me that class, okay, with all its properties and all of its methods and things, and then that's all contained in app. And so we can say app.something to access the different methods and properties that are in this class, and we say app.start, and that just runs everything. It just happens. And so what we're going to do is when we start the app, we're going to make sure that we are showing the main menu to begin with. So we're going to say self.display main menu. So up here, self.display main menu, and that will hopefully just work now. So I've not tested it, of course I haven't tested it, and it doesn't like it. String object has no attribute tkraise. Okay, so one thing I guess we need to do is actually get our code to create this main menu screen, because at the moment I've not done that, and also I've not set this frame to actually be attached to that property we just made. So I'm going to say self.menu screen is equal to tk.frame. And then we're going to take this and we're going to copy it, and we're going to replace this frame down here with self.menu screen. And then everywhere else that we say frame, we're also going to do this. So here in button, we're going to say self.menu screen. And we are going to say down here in label, self.menu screen. Okay, why isn't this happy? Oh, okay, I've indented it wrong. There we go. Okay, now, am I actually creating this menu screen? Am I telling it to do this? So we're creating the game screen. We also need to create the menu screen. So just before we create the game screen, or before, or after, we're going to say create self.create main menu screen. It always worries me when it doesn't auto prompt me there. I just think, am I getting it wrong? Am I doing the wrong thing? So if I run this now, hooray, we have absolutely massive buttons. That's not good. Also, what would be nice is if we got some margins in here. So we're going to use this add margins function to pop some margins down the side as well. So down here with our create main menu screen, we're going to say self. Oh, no, we need to make the menu screen frame first. We're going to say self.menu screen. No, we're not. We're going to say self.add margins. Lose my mind here. Add margins, yeah, absolutely. And we're going to pass in that frame. So we're going to pass in self.menu screen. If you are still following along at the moment, give yourself a pat on the back. That's some serious dedication there. So we're going to add those margins, and hopefully that will just make it so that this isn't so butted up against the side here. Also, the height is just wild. It's just massive, okay? And it's quite wide as well. So let's do 20 width and like 2 height and see what that looks like. We're going to have to do a bit of fine tuning here. So let's run that. Okay, that's more respectable. These labels have done absolutely nothing. They've provided a little bit of space. I think that might be because we've got no text in there. So maybe I'll put like a space character. No, that's done nothing. If I write hello, will it actually display? Or have I done something wrong? Huh. Interesting. Oh, yeah, that's thrown me. I don't know why we're kind of overlapping these, and they're kind of overlapping the rows, but that's okay. It's not really here nor there. We have this main menu now, and also we should now be able to press new game, and we go into the game menu, and then when I press game, new session, nothing happens. So really, I'm going to change this game new session to main menu, okay? And then from the main menu, we can start a new session. So, or maybe it should be exit, game, exit, and that will take us to the main menu. That's nice. Okay, so he's making it up as he goes along. Of course he is. So here, where we've got our game menu.add command, when we're making the game drop-down menu, instead of saying window.destroy in the brutal fashion that we have done, we're actually going to say, where is it? Display main menu. Okay, so we're just going to copy that and back up to here, making the game drop-down menu. We're going to replace self.window.destroy with self.show main menu, display main menu. And now what should happen is we should be able to press new game. It creates us a brand new game. We should then be able to press game, and we should be able to press exit, and we go back to the main menu. Lovely stuff. Now this continue button is so that we can go back into the session that we were in, right? So if we played a few games, I've got some wins, I've got some draws, I've got some losses. Okay, I might want to take a break, I might want to come out. There might be some settings I can change, there's not yet, but there might be. And then I might want to continue with the game. So continue should take us back to this game. So we're just showing that screen again, continue, okay? Now continue should only really be available if we're currently in a session, yeah? Otherwise it should be grayed out. So once the kind of app has first started here, so this continue button should be grayed out. Okay, so we need to think about this and how we can change this as soon as we start a new game. So let's come over to this that I've got here. So we can actually say that the state of something is disabled in order to stop it from firing. Okay, so we can come down here when we make our game. Where do we do that? Where do we do that? Here. When we make our continue button, so in our thing here, let's have states as well. I think they're active and disabled, I think. So we're going to have active, disabled, and active. So I've made a new array there of states, and then here, what was it? State. And we're going to say state equals, somewhere in here in the button when we make it inside create main menu screen, we're going to say state equals, come back, hello. state equals states at position I. And what this should hopefully do, if I've got the active correct, is it should mean that continue is grayed out. Doesn't like this though. Command equals... Oh, I didn't put a comma. Silly me. Okay, so I've added this line in, it needs a comma. Will that run? Yes, yes! And you can see, okay, active wasn't the right word because active is actually making it look like I'm hovering over it. What is the opposite state? Normal, normal. Okay. I think I should just be able to change this to normal. And let's just check that works. Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to change these two to normal. And we now have a grayed out continue button. We now have... Oh, hello? Taginta? Oh, really taking the wind out of my sails there. There we go. We now have a grayed out continue button, okay? And then once we actually start a new session, so I guess we need to store this button, don't we, really? Yeah, we need to store this button because we need to be able to come back at another point and we need to be able to change it. So I'm going to just come up here and in this big list of properties we've got in our noughts and crosses class, I'm going to store this continue button. So I'm going to say self.continue button equals, yep, you got it, empty array. And then we're going to come down here and we are going to set that continue button. As soon as we start a new game, we're then going to allow that continue button to be clicked to resume the game. Okay, so I'm getting lost. There's too much code. I should have made a subclass. Okay, so we've got return to session. No, we haven't. When we start a new session, I guess just, yeah, when we start a new session, we want to change that. Now, this here, we need to do something, don't we? We need to store this button. So, down here, we're going to say if buttons at position I is equal to continue, then we're going to store self.continue button. We're going to store our button inside self.continue button so that we can then access it later. Because what I want to do is I want to change the status of that button. So let's actually implement a method there. So let's come down here and anywhere inside this class really, and we're going to say def. What we're going to say? We're going to say def change status. It's not a good name. It's not a good name. We're going to pass in the self, and what we're going to do is we're going to say. Can I say if? I should be able to say if the status of what I'm looking at. So we're going to pass in the kind of button or the element. Okay, and we're going to say if button.state is equal. Can we say button.state? Did it say it up here? Config. So that sets it. Yeah, we should be able to. We should be able to. It should be fine. Or maybe we won't be too clever, and maybe we'll just say like make active and disable. Yeah, let's say make button active, and let's do this, and then we'll make a disable button. So make button active. We're going to say button dot config, and then we're going to say state is equal to normal. Make button active. Active is a keyword, so I guess we should... I'm going to leave it. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to copy this. You can kind of see where I was going with putting an if statement in there and making this one function, maybe. But I don't know how we can actually get the the state. I don't know if it's as simple as saying button.state, but I don't want to mess around and spend like 10 minutes trying to figure it out because it's quite simple. Make button, let's call it disable button. Disable button, self button, and we're going to set state to disabled, disabled. Is that what we set up here? Disabled, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so now we've got these two methods where we can pass in a button and it will we can make it active or we can disable it. So when we start a new session, what we're going to do is we're going to say, we're going to do all of this, we can create this, we can do that, and then once we've changed screens, we're then going to say make button active, and we're going to make our self.continue button the button that we make active. it's not make, but it's self.make button active. Yeah, okay, fantastic. Okay, so it's a really small thing, right? But it's just kind of, and it doesn't like it. String object has no attribute config. Okay, I've goofed up here, haven't I? Button. Why am I saying but? Oh, okay, yeah, button. Self.continue button. Self.continue button. If buttons I equals continue. Oh, I did lowercase c. Duh. Okay, so in this if statement, I did a lowercase c. It needs to match this one here in the array. Yep, there's a more thoughtful way I could do this, but yes, this is done. Okay, so we can see that the continue button is it's not what I want it to be. So when we start the game, what's going on? So we display the main menu. Now I've got a feeling we're actually kicking off the game right as we initialize. So let's come up here, create game screen, create drop down menus, create main menu screen, create game screen. So what happens in create game screen? Create game screen, we create the players, we make the game screen, we make the game boards, and we start new session. Okay, so when we create the game screen, we do not want to start new session. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this line. I'm just going to comment it out for now. So now when I run it, okay, we can see continue is blanked out. So that was kind of like a little bug that we've managed to detect there. If I press new game, I'm now in a new session, and I can kind of play noughts and crosses. Remember that game? Feels like it's been a while since we talked about noughts and crosses. And we're going to press game, we're going to press exit to go back to the main menu, and we can see here we've got this continue button, so now I can come back to the game. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make it so that when we press new game, instead of going into a game straight away, we're going to go to a screen where we can put in our names, where we can choose whether we want a second player or the computer to play, and we can then press start new game and it will create a brand new session. Okay, so then this idea of these two will be different, because at the moment new game's doing exactly the same as what continue is. Okay, and new session here, I should really call that new game as well, or maybe I should just call the main menu one new session. Let's call it new session, because we've kind of been using that vernacular. So here in the main menu screen, I'm going to create new session. Okay, this has been like 40 minutes and it really doesn't feel like I've done a lot, and I apologise for that. So we've now got a kind of menu system in place, not only like a main menu, but we've also got these drop-down menus where we can do things. There's a fair bit of duplication there, but it's kind of like, I don't know, I want to show you like the different parts of Tkinter and how you can use them and how you can work together with them. And so hopefully you're kind of finding that helpful. So in our next version, let's just update these release notes. So we've added a main menu. In our next version, we are going to add in that user input area, okay? And if we have time, we'll implement the AI for the computer as well. It's not AI, it's just a bunch of if statements. But I'll put that in the tags in the video so that I get lots of likes, obviously. That's what all the YouTubers want, right? So we've added the main menu. Is that all we've done? That's really bad, isn't it? We've added the main menu. Oh, we actually we squashed the bug that was the restart match, the rematch bug. squashed that bug. So that was good. We've added in the main menu. We've not done much else, and I apologise for that. But tomorrow, or next version, we will be adding in the input screen for the users to put in their names and things, and it should start really tying this application together. So that's kind of add player name input screen. Yeah, we're getting there. Then we can add high scores, start of the game, and then done. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I hope you have not found it too stressful following around with me jumping around all over the place. And I look forward to seeing you in the next version, where we will get one step closer to finishing this application. And maybe thank you for hanging on and bearing with me here. And yeah. Until next time, I will catch you later.